roads and everything here in Loudoun, Del Mar. I, more than anyone else, know how frustrating it feels for everyone, including myself, Maureen, and my management team, to get the financing completed. Our company continues to struggle on a daily and weekly basis without the financing. And for those that ask me what happens if the financing doesn't happen, I say to them, you know, it will be a great day when the financing does happen, because we're not going to give up on this. My philosophy has always been that you, in your life, you work like it depends on, pray like it depends on God, and work like it depends on you. So Doreen and I will continue the effort to get the financing in place, and that's our first and main priority. As you guys know, we all live here permanently now. We sold all of our home assets and everything in the United States. Let me speak for a minute about the Master Trust and the transfer of the Master Trust certificates from HSBC to Banco Inmobiliaria de Mexico, which we refer to as BIM, B-I-M. So we want to remind those that have not completed the paperwork to transfer their HSBC Master Trust certificate to Banco Inmobiliaria to BIM to please do so. If you're not sure if the property that you hold is, if you don't know if it's in the Master Trust, then please check with our sales department. They can tell you in a second whether or not you're in the Master Trust or whether you need an individual trust. For those that have an individual trust with HSBC, you guys all know that the HSBC Trust Department has been closed. They are wrapping it up. They've been closing it down for a couple of years now. And some of you know that HSBC is not cooperating with an owner that holds an individual trust when they go to sell their property. And it's really not a case of them not wanting to help necessarily. Well, I kind of is not wanting to help because they only have 4 people left in the entire trust department for all of Mexico. So it doesn't only affect Colorado Ranch people that have individual trust with HSBC, it's a countrywide problem HSBC has. And in order to move the trust out of HSBC, you need them to release it. And we've worked diligently with them. Jesus almost has, and Jorge Bustamante, our attorney in Mexico City, has been working with HSBC and BIM, trying to coordinate all of this and make the transfer for our owners as small an economic impact on our owners as possible. HSBC originally told us through the old director that they would be, for those that were behind in fees, that they were considering waiving fees, some fees for our individual trust owners. Well, that individual who had been with HSBC for years got fired, and the new lady who took over for him went and requested through HSBC London, where they're headquartered, the waiving of the fees, and HSBC denied waiving the fees. So they're not going to charge for those that haven't paid their fees up to date, their annual fee up to date with HSBC. There are no penalties involved, but they do want their fees current before they'll allow the transfer. So once the individual trust holder is paid HSBC, the cost of transferring from HSBC to BIM, including the notary fees, is about $2,000. So we're going to be putting out a procedural memo in the next 20-30 days to the 8 individual trust holders that we have, explaining the whole process and the cost involved. If you decide to keep your property with HSBC, you can do it. The property's secure there. The problem will come when you want to go to sell it and there's nobody to work with in HSBC to get the trust released because of their backlog. So it's taken as much as up to 2 years to get some of these transfers released, and of course at that point you lose your buyer, probably. So we're encouraging people to go ahead and make the transfer. I think it's in their best interest. You know, we have had some owners that have gone out and hired an independent attorney. They've gone through the process. Our understanding is it's cost about $5,000 to do it if you want to do it on your own. We're trying to minimize the cost, and we have got the cost identified, and we think it's around $2,000 to make the transfer. We also have a Mackville-Mobley area officer that's traveling right now as we're speaking. Will be here before the end of this meeting to address this whole issue a little bit further. So he should be here within the next hour. Let me comment for a minute on the hurricane we had, Hurricane Rosa. Probably a lot of you were here. We were here when it happened. Luckily, we got just a tropical storm. We didn't get hit with a full hurricane. So supposedly we got 7 to 9 inches of water. We did have some flooding at the ranch. I think we all think the HOA did a great job in getting prepared and also diverting water and cleaning up roads. We know that all the road work hasn't been done, but they're hard at it. We do have 3 graders out there, and they'll work and get the roads back in shape. You probably know also that some of the roads south of San Felipe were damaged pretty bad, so if you're planning on traveling south, you ought to check with who you can check with. Jesus says check with the federal police for the condition of the roads south. Or Facebook, yeah. Better than federal police. So the golf course, let me just say that the golf course is in much better shape this year, thanks to a lot of hard work by our engineer Jesus Velarde and his golf course maintenance team, and the help we've had from our consultant Mike Hathaway putting a plan together. Obviously the storm did help the golf course. It all drained really very well this time with the storm. And we had our golf tournament about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it was very successful. We raised about $7,500 for our scholarship fund. I want to thank Lee for all the sponsors, the players, and the volunteers did a great job. And we got great comments on the golf course during the tournament. Let me make a comment about the pipe leaks we've had in the condominiums, which has been another source of aggravation. On June 14, Doreen and I and the attorneys, our attorneys, went to Chicago to meet with a court-mandated mediation with NIBCO. NIBCO is the pipe manufacturing company that manufactures flexible pipe that we've had a problem with. And we went there in the hopes of reaching a settlement. During the mediation, NIBCO was asked to produce their insurance policies by the judge who was presiding over the mediation, and to see if the insurance that they had for the 25-year warranty on the pipe was adequate to settle the claims made by Mikosita. We were unable to reach a settlement, which wasn't shocking. Our attorneys then, right now, have filed a motion to make NIBCO compel. They filed with the court to turn over the insurance policies covering the 25-year warranty on the pipe. And our attorneys are also working on scheduling the NIBCO depositions. Last week, our attorney sent another expert witness here for manufacturing of homes, etc., construction of homes. And he was here all day, and his expert opinion, when he left here, he told us that he feels 100% that this is a defective pipe issue. So we expect that if we don't reach a settlement with NIBCO relatively soon, we'll wind up having a court hearing in 2019. I mean, The judge has already agreed to accept the case. They tried to get the case dismissed on 2 occasions. The judge not only said that he would not dismiss the case, he's going to allow the case, and he's going to allow the case to carry punitive damages with it. If we win the case, which I'm pretty sure we will, and punitive damages in most cases, this would be in the state of Indiana, is a treble claim charge. So whatever they lose in damages could be trebled by the judge, and the jury. So that's where we are on that. We're anxious to get that settled. Our plan is to systematically move people out of their 4-plex units into another the same unit they're in. It's fully furnished, have them with a food allowance every day, get these things. We think it's going to be about a 10-day process to do each building, repair everything, move their furniture for them, repaint everything, move them back in, and we've got it all planned out, so we're going to try and make it as convenient as possible, even though it's been a big inconvenience. But it's a manufacturing flaw in the piping. It's not the first case they've had. We found out that there have been numerous cases. There was actually a case, a very large case in Las Vegas, where they closed down a whole subdivision of homes to get this thing settled. Some very similar situation, the same kind of flexible piping. Let me speak for a minute about the new policy that we're putting in place for ATV and off-road vehicles here in La Ventana Del Mar. We have a new rule that will not allow ATVs and off-road vehicles in La Ventana Del Mar and the La Ventana areas, and by basically people that are non-residents. And the reason that we've done this is because the owners of those vehicles, when they rent here, have really lacked the respect for our property, and the property management companies have lacked the ability to enforce the policy. And of course, these renters are running around in this community with no regard to the damage they do to the golf course and to other roads in here that they want to run off-road vehicles on. It's caused a couple of almost altercations with some of our owners that live in here. It's not been a pleasant situation, but there's no private country club golf community in all of Mexico that lets off-road vehicles out of sight of the community owners on the property. So what we've done, we've built a secured facility across the street from the entrance of La Ventana Del Mar. We're telling the renters and the guests that bring off-road vehicles here, they usually trailer them down, that they have to put the trailers over there on the other side, and that when they want to use them, they're welcome to go over and take them off the trailer, use them, and put them back there, but not to bring them inside the property here. Generally, the problem is the underage kids, and the kids that are the 14, 15, 16, whatever. And the parents say, well, I can't watch the kid 24/7, so whatever. But it's just that we've had enough damage in here that we have to implement this rule. And the exception is going to be that on the big race weekends, where a lot of racers like the Baja 250, they like to stay here because of all of our security. There have been a lot of incidents downtown at hotels, motels, where they've had their expensive equipment parked outside. It's been vandalized, stolen in some cases, and so they like being here for the security purpose. And so for the off-road, the big races, what we're going to do is let them come in, but they're going to have to park their trailers and their vehicles over in the storage area, which is over by the old Palapa swimming pool. So we've also built and are finishing the construction of a 7.5-mile off-road course where the renters that have off-road vehicles and their guests, they can run their vehicles. And this course does not go through any of the El Dorado communities. We've redesigned it so it does not go into any of our communities. The design is almost completed. And once it's finished, we'll distribute it through the property management companies and all through our security department. As all of us know, Mexico is going to have a new president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Most people refer to him as AMLO, AMLO by his initials. He takes office on December 1 of this year, and his platform has been to end corruption, reduce violence, increase the minimum education requirement for the kids, and to address poverty. You know, he's got a very aggressive agenda. A lot of the political people in the country and Mexican country, indigenous people believe that if he gets 50% of what he says he wants to do done, be very successful. How does his initial proposal directly affect Baja? Well, he wants to introduce an economic free zone also in the northern border of the country, and he feels he'll be able to boost the economy of the Mexican states that border the United States and slow down the migration to the north. One of the things that he's going to change, says he's going to change, and has to go through Congress, but I think he's got enough control in Congress to get it changed. He's going to reduce the EVA tax from 16% in these border states to 8%. But that's only going to, we were hoping that San Felipe could be included into that, so did Ensenada, but it's only going to affect the bordering states within 30 kilometers of the border. So we won't be included in that. There are some lobbying and petitions going on to try and get that extended into some of these states a little bit further down. I think a lot of this from what AMLO says he wants to do, I think he's definitely going to make a difference in Mexico, as, you know, if he gets some of these things done, and of course we'll wait and see what happens in his first 100 days. Comment on the local fishing. Commercial fishing with gill nets is still permanently banned in the Sea of Cortez in an effort to save what remains of the baby porpoise, the vaquita population. Fishermen can still fish with government-approved netting, which is a chango net and nylon nets. But the chango nets and the nylon nets are not strong enough to catch the large totuaba, which is what the commercial fishermen are really after. And why is that? Well, it's because the totuaba bladder, or what they refer to as the bulchi, is worth $5,000 US a kilo here in San Felipe. And by the time it gets to China, where it's consumed, it's a delicacy and an aphrodisiac, etc. It's worth $25,000 a kilo. So there's a big black market for the bulchi. And it's such a lucrative business that some of the fishermen are still illegally out there with gill nets and will run the risk of being arrested because of the payback is as good as it is. So if you're a sports fisherman and you encounter Mexican guys, fishermen and pangas using gill nets in the Sea of Cortez, you need to be careful, because we've had occasion that these guys also have automatic weapons in the boats. And not that there have been any incidents that we know of, but we know that the weapons have been raised, telling other fishermen to get out of their area. In fact, last week, a military helicopter crashed into the Sea of Cortez, right out here, chasing some of these illegal fishermen. So some of us hope that the Mexican government will open sports fishing for totuaba in limited amounts, because first it will bring, we think, between 4,000 and 5,000 avid sports fishermen here to San Felipe. We have 70 million registered fishermen in the United States, 9 million registered in Canada, and we know we can sell 4,000 or 5,000 fishing licenses, because at Totuaba, the giant sea bass, it's the only place you can catch it in the world, is here. And then secondly, the University of Baja California in Ensenada was incubating and brought back this fish that was extinct out of here at one point, or now have a new facility where they're raising about as many as 500,000 baby to 12 fingerlings a year. And so they're releasing them. A lot of them will be released back here in the natural habitat, the Sea of Cortez, the upper Sea of Cortez. And it's, like I said, it's the only place in the world where they are natural. They have transported some of them down to La Paz into a commercial fishing situation to try and reproduce them. They've also done some fishing pens over and off of Ensenada, but the fish don't grow as fast over there. They grow twice as fast in this natural water with the nutrients that the water has, and it's just their natural habitat. And eventually, we're in hopes that we can maybe, with the fishing permits, change the black market into a white market, where the town of San Felipe, which we hope will become a city one day, will benefit off of a sale into the white market of this poultry to China. I mean, the market over there for this bladder is insatiable with 1.8 billion people. So, upcoming events tonight in the Pavilion Restaurant. A lot of you know that we're having a Halloween and the Day of the Dead party with a special menu, and they have some best costume awards. And then, of course, this weekend's the annual Shrimp Festival from Friday to Sunday, so please take the time to enjoy our biggest tourist event, other than the Baja 250. We had a fellow here last year who was very popular, Frank De Silva. His show's going to return. His show's going to return here next week on Wednesday, November 7th at the Pavilion. And he's a world-class entertainer and celebrates the music legacy of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Bobby Darin, Tony Bennett, Nat King Cole. And he has a show called The Great American Songbook. And he's back with a new show presentation this year. So if you're interested, he really is a great entertainer. If you're interested, you can get tickets right at the Pavilion Restaurant after the meeting. Then next weekend on November 9 and 10 is the first annual Songwriters Festival. The 9th, the show's going to be here in the Pavilion and in this room, and on Saturday the 10th, it's going to be down at Juanito's in the outdoor area. Also, a reminder, turn your clock back on Sunday, November 4th. And then finally, I'd like to thank the Supervisory Committee led by President Steve Kemme and the El Dorado Ranch Committee led by Ed Jones and Dick Peterson, the La Ventana Del Mar Committee members Denise Lavin and Hans Wolschut, and the Las Villas Committee members Martha Rezac and Gary Lambert. This group works hard, and we have monthly meetings that usually last. We had one yesterday, and they usually last anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. But they go over the financial statements and all the outstanding issues to make sure that the ranch is operating on budget and operating economically and in the best interest of the owners. And I want to commend them. They've done a great job, and they're great to work with. Doreen and I didn't used to attend those meetings because we didn't think our attendance was wanted or required. But we've started attending them, and I think it's worked out really best for everybody. So that's a very active supervisory committee group that you guys have in place. I also want to thank the HOA staff led by Roberto Islas and his whole staff, and the El Dorado development staff led by Jesus Olmos, and a special thanks to my wife Doreen, who keeps me in shape, track, whatever, and for the administrative assistance and support she lends to me and the company. So with that, I'll open the floor to questions, and please come to the microphone. Where's the microphone?
morning, Pat. I'm Mrs. Vernon. I live at Vista Del Mar. I have been looking into the transfer of HSBC Bank, and I'm in the process of doing that. So I didn't know about your fees that you're charging. Where is BMI located?
Well, BIM has an office in Mexicali now. And I'll let Jesus is really much more involved with this whole process, but these fees are not through El Dorado Ranch. I want to make sure everybody's clear about that. There is an admin fee, and we're reducing the amount of the admin fee, but we do have to fly to Mexico City to get these transfers made with HSBC because none of the other banks, HSBC branches, will even service a client or take a payment. In fact, I didn't know this, we learned this yesterday in the meeting, that the HSBC individual trust clients supposedly are getting an email from HSBC that gives them a code so that they can go online and it's an individual code, specialized code, so that they can, all right, Erin?
I have been dealing with HSBC Bank for 12 years, and I've been paying them regular as of this year, and had no problem. But now I do have to transfer out because of the situation of if and when I sell. My other question was, the ATVs that are not allowed on La Fontana side, are they going to be allowed to come on Mountainside? Because when we have company come, we have to go to the gate and inform the guard that we have a certain individual coming in. If there's a renter on La Fontana side that has an ATV that's allowed to park where you say, and he has a friend that has a friend on Mountainside, are they going to be able to go through that to use their ATVs on our property?
Yes, we've not excluded ATVs and renters from having ATVs and off-road vehicles on the mountainside.
Well, we have a lot as it is, and they do destruct, and they do cause a lot of damage, so now we're going to get triple the amount of ATVs.
I think that the vast majority of the renters stay in the condos here, and we looked at that very closely. At least 70% of the rental income that comes off our property management department and the other property management companies is from here inside La Fontana del Mar. If we have a big problem with noise and disruption on the other side, seriously, and the supervisory committee brings that to our attention to look and review that whole policy again for the mountainside, we'll do it. I'm totally against the destruction of property and letting people have quiet enjoyment. So if they're running ATVs in the middle of the night at 1 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock and all that stuff and tearing the place up and raising hell, then we can definitely put a stop to that.
But now we're going to have all those excess on our side, destructing our property.
I don't think it's going to move them to your side. I really don't. I think the people that stay here primarily for security, and a lot of them have their own kids with them, their families, and I don't think that that's going to move them to they're going to still rent on this side.
Yeah, they will rent, but will they be allowed to have their friends from La Fontana come over to the mountainside?
Well, we built a track for them to run their ATVs on, and if they're running on our regular roads over there, like racers, then it's an issue with our security department, and we've had occasion where we've had to go to families and say, listen, if you can't get yourself and your kids in order here, you're going to have to leave. And in one case, we did, in the middle of the night, eject the family. And not because we wanted to, because they got violent, belligerent, they were drunk, and, it was a problem. So we had to call the police in, and, because our security people obviously can only do so much, And if we have to get municipal police to get them escorted off the property or to deal with the situation, we'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Allá con el carro.
Yes.
Con el carro.
This is a question back about the individual trusts in HSBC. We have two, and up until this year, 2018, I would be getting an email from whoever was handling, and they tell me how much to pay and where to send the payment to. And I was doing that, and then eventually I'd get a payment receipt. But now that they're not servicing them, and your comment that they won't release the trusts until they're current, I have no idea how much to pay, where to pay it. So I haven't paid it all for this year, so I'm now going into a second year of being in arrears, and I can't pay what I don't know how much to pay or where to send it to. And I haven't received any kind of a code or an email or zero, and every number I've kind of dug up from calling people proves, to lead nowhere. They're disconnected numbers. So I don't know what to do, so I'm just sitting here and I haven't paid anything.
So Denise actually brought this up, Denise Loudon is a supervisory committee member at our meeting yesterday, and she just got her notification from HSBC with a number, and she went ahead and made her payment. So what we're going to do, and we're in the process of doing right now, since we finally got a decision out of HSBC, which took 6 months, but we're going to go get all of the records for all of our individual trust owners with HSBC, the amounts that are owed, make sure that we've got all the correct information for that owner, and advise the owner of what it is and how to make their payment. And we're going to assist everybody to get through this process. We're going to staff up and get ready to do this so that we can be of more assistance in the transfer of the whole situation from HBCL. Unfortunately, the experience that you've had is exactly what HSBC's service experience has been around the country of Mexico. There's no service. That department's left, like they were over there in Mexico City a couple of weeks ago. Jesus and Jorge Bustamante, our attorney, they've got 4 people in the whole department. So we'll get it straightened out.
He didn't read the draft policy I already typed, but anyway, the policy that I'm going to send out to all of our owners that have an individual trust, we are going to get and request what the balance owed for annual fees are. But I have the email address that as long as you have your trust number, which is on your trust document, you can email and get your bill, okay? And then I have all the 3 different addresses, depending on how and who you send your payment with, on where to send it. You want to see me after the meeting, and I'll give you that information, and you can email it instead of waiting for, I'm still going to get everybody as much as I can from HSBC and let our owners know, but there is a way you can get what you owe now. And I'll give you that information.
Hi, I'm Linda Love. I live in the villas, and so at this point, we should go ahead and pay if we have the information.
HSBC?
Yes.
Yes,
individual trust.
Yes, who was the fellow, the fellow that said he was gonna help us waive fees or whatever. I don't know, Mariana's a new lady. The guy, Hector Calderon de la Vaca was the guy that verbally told Jesus and Bustamante, our attorney, last year that he would work on getting these fees waived. And then we found out that the guy was asked to retire or fired. And the lady that took his place, this lady Mariana, went and made the request through London, and the answer came back, no, we're not going to waive fees. So yes, I would suggest that you go ahead and pay it, because in the end you'll have to pay it. Yeah.
Over the past month, I've received 2 emails from HSBC with the amount and how to make a payment. Mailing a check to Palatine, Illinois. And they weren't signed, there was not a contact person, so I was leery about doing it. But at this point, we can go ahead and do it.
Yeah, all the payments, as I understand it, and was kind of clarified yesterday, was that they either accept the payment, they're accepted in Chicago or the other little town in Illinois. And that's official with HSBC. That's where they receive all their payment.
Thank you.
Those of us that have had some major damage from Hurricane Rosa, those of us that have had major damage from Hurricane Rosa, that have to bring in things from the United States, it's just come to my attention that we're going to have to pay an import fee of 26%. So if you end up paying something like 9% in sales tax in the United States and 26% for the import tax, you're looking at about 35% in tax on the items that you're bringing in. Is there any chance of getting special dispensation in reference to that 26%?
Well, no, I don't think, normally, for example, you're crossing, you want to import something from the United States to Mexico, the rate is 16%. Basically, what you pay is the IVA tax. Because if you as a person, as an individual, if you want to cross something as a company, because it's a business thing, you will pay the rate, whatever, depends on the merchandise you're crossing. Now, with this reduction in the IVA, we expect, all the individual importation is going to pay only 8%. That's what it's going to be.
Well, I've been told that any construction material that you're going to bring in that's more than $1,000 is 26%. And I've got floors that I have to bring in that are totaling close to $10,000. And I'm going to have to pay 26% on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because you're bringing, construction materials, they are considered, that you are in the construction business, Then they will charge, we call arancel, this is the rate tax, import tax, and it depends on the material, it's a different rate. It means a different rate for food, different rate for construction, different rate for clothing. Some clothing, for example, it comes from China, you pay maybe 200%. If the clothes come from the United States, maybe zero, because the trade. It's a different kind of rates, depends what you want to close.
Yeah, but if you're not a company, you've just had a problem with your construction from the hurricane, and you cannot get that material in Mexico, and you have to bring it in from the United States.
In this case, we need to have, a special authorization, because you say, well, this is because the hurricane, we want to help the community, we want to bring these materials to help San Felipe and all that. Should be done by some official institution in Mexico, authorized for that. But if it is for your house, they want to make it just a normal treatment, as anybody else. There is no.
But Steve, are you using somebody to import this, or you?
No, I just found this out yesterday, to be frank.
Who did you find it out from?
Excuse me?
Who did you find it out from?
I had a conversation with Ricardo.
Montana?
Yes, and I understood it's going to be after December 1st, because it's not going to be probably until the 1st of the year, because everybody's got so much to do here. And I thought it would end up being 8% coming across the border with the new president, only to find out that it's 26%.
Hey Pat, it's Ricardo.
No, but Doreen, when there's Ricardo.
The regular tax for building to import things that you're building is 60%. There is no discount on things that are being imported that are used for construction. You can get discounts on other items, but anything that's for building is 16%. But once you're over $1,000 of the things that you're going to import, you need to use a company that does that. And normally, they normally charge 10%, so you end up paying about 26% of the tax. So the only way around this is that you bring less than $1,000 at a time, import it as an individual, not through an importing company, and pay 60%. That's the only way you can go around it, or if there's any other way, like Susan mentioned, I don't know about.
I mean, well, if it includes a 10% fee to an importer, then that's where the other 10% comes from. And on the other hand, if AMLO, the new president, he says it's going to happen immediately. If he comes in and reduces the border taxes from 16 to 8, then yeah, I would wait till after the first of the year.
Yeah, I started my fideicomiso process in July of 2013. Paid the fees to El Dorado Ranch and sent the money for the fideicomiso. Well, apparently I got lost in the shuffle transfer from when HSBC quit writing. It's now 2018 and I still don't have my fideicomiso. I was informed that Juan Perez would be here today to answer questions about that.
He's the guy that's bringing the BEM guy down, Banco Mobiliario man down, and he should be here shortly, so we'll make sure you guys get together and do it.
Yeah, it's been a tough situation communicating with them. I've sent emails and made numerous calls and haven't had my calls returned or my emails returned, so it's frustrating.
I understand that, and so we'll definitely get this taken care of today, your information, and make sure we follow up on it. It's been very frustrating for us to deal with HSBC. It really has been. They've had so many changes in that department. Actually, they went out of the trust business because of money laundering. That means they got caught money laundering worldwide in a lot of countries, and they paid a fee of almost $1 billion. And their London, the board of directors said, close all the trust departments across the world.
Good morning, Steve Wall, resident since 1996. I understand on your refinancing and whatnot, the benefits of La Ventana and the new electrical system out in the subdivisions. I would like to know what benefit this refinance is going to do for me out in Los Ventana Del Mar. What do I do? I live out in the solar section. I'm sorry, I'm just talking in front of large groups. Out in the solar section, I don't see any benefit to a refinance guy at all when you guys have taken care of this quite well for the last 22 years. What can you do for me in my solar section? I make my own electricity, I get water delivered. I rarely see a grader come through on my road. So that's my question. What benefit is this to me?
Well, I think it benefits the whole community because I think as all this stuff gets finished in here, the property values are going to go back to what they were originally. And before the recession, I will tell you what I'm going to do is all of my sales prices are going to go back to what they were normally. As soon as I get the financing in place and as soon as we start moving dirt and finishing projects, all of my pricing is going back to what it was before this started. And with the amount of investment that we're talking about that this investors group is planning, I think it's going to benefit the whole town of San Felipe. At one time, when we were in heavy marketing, we drove pretty much the whole economy of San Felipe. And we want to not necessarily get back to that same level of marketing, 100 couples a week, but we do want to get back to a normal, steady pace of marketing, healthy marketing. So I think in general what it's going to do is I think it's going to be uplifting it's going to certainly make me more restful and take stress out of my life to see the stuff that we had to stop get finished. And I think it's going to bring values back for all of our owners. So I think in general it's going to help us all.
That's big. On your HSBC, I've been paying our payments through Power posted this on Facebook to many times, giving people the particulars, the email, the phone numbers. I get paid every February, I get receipts. I've had no problem with HSBC Bank. Now I'm transferring out, like I said, and I have been told by the attorneys that those that have not paid their fideicomissos are going to have to get caught up, and they will be charged at least 30 to 40% penalty fee.
There are no penalties. We've got that in writing. We got a notification from HSBC. I've been on these guys for the last couple of weeks about this, knowing that this meeting is coming up, demanding from HSBC that they finally give us an answer that we've been waiting for months. So our attorney, Jorge Bustamante in Mexico City, has been babysitting this woman, testing her daily, and finally she did write a letter to us and officially stating that the fees do have to be paid. There are no penalties or no late fees or anything else associated with it.
And I also have been dealing with Juan Perez and Jim Burns, and the only comment that I get from either of those is I'm put on a waiting list, which means it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be any time. So
The waiting list to do the transfer?
I am listed with Juan, but I have chosen to go on my own.
That was because we were waiting till we got the policy from the bank and the final thing, and we just got that this week. So, yeah, we did state, if you want to have somebody else do it, and you can go with any bank you want also. So, I mean, you don't have to go with BIM, you can stay with HSBC, you can go to Scotia, you can go with Banco and Millwood area. So, but you can't have that option. You don't have to go through us to do this.
The thing that got me is the waiting list. There was no specific time.
Well, this thing outlines that once we started this procedure, it's a, let me see, where did you put it? It's about a 2-month process.
Then
Now,
why wasn't I told that?
Got that answered yesterday from the bank. If they get all this paper, this lists all the paperwork that's required. And we asked them, we have everything in here shows you everything that has to be done, what goes to HSBC, what goes to BIM, what goes to the notario, and we're going to compile all that. Some of this is traveling. The longest part of the process is the Mexico City Foreign Affairs permit, which both banks have to have something to do. One has to cancel the permit and one has to get a new permit. That is the time-consuming part. We can't go any faster than they go. They're estimating 2 months to get the whole thing from start to finish to the notary. And then after the notary takes a good 10 days to get the trust turned around, 10 days to 2 weeks to record it and get it back and mailed to you.
I just wish I was told this before we decided to go private.
But I can tell you, that's why I still have it redlined here because I have some questions about it. The problem with doing onesie-twosies, I think when we get inundated, the 2-month process may go longer. That's what I'm afraid of, and that's what I have questions for the guy who's coming down here. If I send him 50, can he do 50 in two months? Or can he do 1 or 2 in 2 months? I mean, I need to get those questions answered because I don't know. If we get inundated or we inundate the bank, will the timeline change? And that's on here with one of my questions for him when he gets here. But yesterday was when we got the final attorney information, so I'm sorry we didn't get it to you. You're always halfway.
Hi, I was just wondering if there's any talk anywhere in the Mexican government of getting rid of this ridiculous fideicomiso thing and just going to a fee simple ownership.
A great question, because there is now finally in Mexico a very active nationwide real estate association, which is called AMPI, A-M-P-I, and that is one of the main, or the main item on the AMPI agenda. And I've met with the president of AMPI. I don't know if the fellow is still a president, but I met with him a year ago, and he was petitioning the Peña Nieto, the current president, about this. It was late in his administration. It was not a big item for Peña Nieto. but definitely the realtors across all of Mexico want to get rid of the fideicomiso because it only affects the prohibitive zone. Unfortunately, all of Baja's in the prohibitive zone because it's 50 miles from the sea and 50 miles from the border, more or less. So, but there is a big movement to just do away with the fideicomiso. Foreigners that own in the interior of Mexico can hold direct title. So it's only in this prohibitive zone area where the fideicomiso applies, but there is a big movement to just eliminate it. And in fact, a lot of the banks just don't want the live. You know, one of the problems HSBC ran into, people go in and open up a trust account and start moving money through it, and it's really not registered as a regular business activity. And some of this, the banks that are involved have trust departments, don't really know that, and I'm sure that they find out and they do know, but supposedly they don't know that there are illegal activities of money laundering going on within these trust departments, and that's what HSBC got caught up into. But a lot of the banks want to just get out of the trust business because it's a big liability for them too. So I think I'm hope the real estate sales in Mexico, if they did away with the foreign trust, would be astronomical. I mean, I think it would make it so much simpler for people to understand it and feel that their investment was totally protected because they held direct title.
Hi Pat, Jim Hart and Charlotte Hart. We live in the condominiums, and as recently as yesterday, big yellow graders run up and down the road right around the corner from where you live, and the sand trucks come through there, and it breaks the road up. Those roads don't have a lot of iron in them, as I can tell, because they're just broken up all the time, and running those graders over is not helpful.
Okay, Jim, I got it. So we will definitely change that. That's something within our ability to change. Is Roberto Easley here? Oh, Roberto. So you heard that, Roberto. That, okay, heavy equipment running down the paved roads. So we'll make sure the heavy equipment stays out of the paved roads. Ricardo, you can. What, you guys want to speak to that or not speak to that?
Usually we don't go by the paved roads. Maybe one guy have done it, but we'll speak with him. Because yes, I agree, the weight of the machines are heavy. So they can break the roads. I will speak personally with them that this is not something that they have to do. Usually it has to be the dirt roads. That's what they have to do.
So thanks for bringing that to our attention, Jim.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll make sure. Ricardo Price is here too, Director of Operations, so we'll make sure it gets done.
Hi, Pat. Paul Herbert, my wife and I have a unit in the villas. The financial representative that was here in April, I was under the impression that he was a representative of Summers Group, or that he was their financial person. Now Summers is out, but they're still in.
So what happened with this whole situation was that Stephanie Summers contacted me while, you know, she missed 7 closing dates with us. And I finally wrote her an email and talked to her and said, listen, Stephanie, you've lost credibility with me, my team, and everything else. And it's not only been frustrating, it's been very embarrassing because you can't close. And I don't even want to tell you this, but as recently as about 30 days ago or 20 days ago, she contacted me again and said she's ready to close. But anyway, she turned me over to this guy, introduced me by phone to Mark Day. And she said he's our business consultant and he's going to take over the closing aspect of the whole the business proposition. So I said, fine. So Mark and I met by phone. Mark contacted me about a week later and said, listen, I'm going to be out on the West Coast, maybe we could meet in person. I said, he was going to be in California. I said, Mark, the best thing that I would suggest you do is come down here and spend the weekend with me and Doreen and part of my team, and see these assets because I know you haven't been here before. He said, well, that's a great idea. So we arranged that, and he came and he spent the weekend, and it just happened to be the weekend that I had my semi-annual developer meeting in April. And so I asked Mark the same question you're asking me. What's this deal with Summers? She introduced me to you. He says, Pat, I don't have the entire story. I've worked for the Day Group for the Drake Group for 7 years. And I know that the Drake Group and Summers have had some business plans and propositions they were going to do together under my direction with those guys as a business manager. None of that ever materialized. And I think what finally happened was that they have split, they've broken up. So the Drake Group was kind of the lead group in the investment arena, and Summers didn't perform for them, and so they disassociated themselves from Summers, and there's some legal activity that went on along with that the Drake Group explained to me in writing. It gets a little bit complicated, but the thing is that and so Mark told me, look, I'm not going to get into all the details. It's not what we're talking about. We're going to just take the project over. We love the thing. We want to get it closed. And so that's the bottom line. I mean, they were at one time affiliated with each other. According to Summers, when she accused them of trying to steal her deal, and the Drake Group said, listen, we've been by your side through this whole process. And Summers then explained to me, well, part of my delay, or this 6-month delay I have encountered, has been because of the breaking up, the breaking away, me and them breaking the relationship. So I said, well, whatever it is, that's your guys' business. It's not, for all I want to do is get my deal closed. I just want money in the bank and get the project going again, and that's what Doreen and I and the team are dedicated to, so I just want to get it closed. So that's as much as I know about it. I mean, I do know that, I don't know what stage, I don't know if they settled their litigation issues or not. I know there were some because, both groups were so involved. But.
So what it looked to me and what it still looks like is that she tied it up and she was looking for a flip, and
I think she was more than just the broker in the deal, because she was represented by a broker who brought me to her, who's a guy that used to work with Caldwell Banker, and I had actually known this individual for 20 years. He's actually a Mexican, but he's as much American as Mexican. He went to USC, and he's got, he's very bicultural, etc. And a guy by the name of Gabriel Robles, and Gabe's the guy that brought me to Summers. And so I know she had a broker that has brought her deals. So I know she's more than just a broker, was more than just a broker. I mean, she was a partner with these guys, but because of her non-performance with them, I guess they just broke the association.
Thanks, Ted.
Right here. Janice Sutton, from Condos. Keep talking on the microphone. Anyways, it's been very helpful with the new regulations on the ATVs. It's been quiet. They're not on the golf course. I'm right there. I've seen them. I've chased them off. We still have a problem with over-renting. I just saw an advertisement the other day for 6 adults and 4 children that was put out by one of the rental agencies here. They have pictures of the bedrooms. There's 7 beds. So that's still something that needs to be addressed a little more thoroughly. Another problem during the last town hall meeting was announced that there were only 3 roofs that needed to be repaired. Well, after this last storm, there's a lot more than 3.
So, Jan, we saw the list yesterday at the supervisory meeting. Yeah, we had, I think, some of them were not major, some of them I think were, I think Michael Schwartz had one that was pretty major, but anyway, we know of that. We talked about that. We do have some reserve funding that the homeowners, the HOA management is looking, and the supervisory committee are looking at tapping some of the reserve funds to get the repair underway a little bit quicker so that we get this stuff, the roofs put back together.
But my question on that is, the roofs that have been being repaired aren't in construction for 30 years. We had an independent contractor go up on 2 of the roofs. They're not being done correctly. And I don't know, is it just your maintenance staff that's redoing the roofs? Qualified roofers? I think that's part of why we're having the continued leaks. They're not repaired correctly.
So, Janice, I'm going to do this. Ricardo and Tanya, you're here, right? Yes. So, will you and Lupita, mine, and Roberto get together with Janice Sutton and find out who these qualified roofers were that they had come down and talk to them about what they're saying that is not being done correctly with these repairs?
Thank you.
That would be helpful.
Yep.
Just one more thing about the Drake group. I think you mentioned in your opening comments that they're talking about 30 days. I'm just wondering how realistic that is, because it's hard to keep hearing the 30 days and another date and another date. I'm just wondering how confident you are that that's a realistic time frame.
Well, believe me, it's been very frustrating and stressful for us because I only feed back in my updates what they tell me, and I ask them for as much reassurance as I can get from them. In the case of the Drake group, what I do know, because they have given me evidence and explained it to me, that they were in one method of, before they got involved with this hedge fund group, they were going to fund the whole acquisition in a different way. And they decided that the different way they were going to do it was going to be too costly for them in the terms of fees and et cetera. So that they decided to change strategies in doing the financing. And so that cost them some time. They have given me verbally and in writing a lot of assurances that they will get this done. I mean, I have seen some of the underwriting that's been done now with this new group, the hedge fund group, that's underwritten, part of the deal and what their underwriting advice to them has been. Actually, they've been able to get through underwriting, through this one phase of it, which was a 19-page report that they sent me, which was very constructive on their behalf. And they tell me that the underwriting alone will cost them about $500,000 to get this acquisition underwritten so that they can get finished with the financing through the hedge fund group. And the hedge fund group requires independent underwriting for this kind of a transaction. So I've told them, that I definitely want the thing closed before, not that there's any miracle about the date, but before the new president comes into office, before December 1, because I've told him that his entire cabinet will change. And some of the things that we want to get done requires some involvement with some of the, cabinet members and their down structure. And usually when these 6-year presidencies change, they change all their main cabinet members or secretaries, and the secretaries then put their own team in place. So a lot of times it takes 6 months before anything happens in any of these offices until they really get it. Because these are not career politicians. These are guys that decide to spend a couple of years in government for whatever reason. And so I told them that I definitely want this thing done. I mean, the governor here and the Secretary of Tourism, who we know well, those guys are still in office for another 8 months before they're, you know, they're in office for another year, but generally after 8 months, you know, they're pretty much out of it. So we've got stuff that we need to get done in state too. So I've told them that just the political environment is important to us too to get this closing done. So they understand all the reasons, and you know, they've told me that their date is like less than 30 days. They've said it around Thanksgiving, but I'm not going to promise that because, you know, that's November 22nd. So I told them, listen, you just get it done by when you tell me 30 days in a month, and I'm fine with that, and that's what I'm counting on. But I have seen some evidence of what they are doing in preparation to get the closing actually done, and the underwriting and another couple of confidential things that they've sent me that go along with financing.
Hi, Charlotte Hart. And about the roofs in the villas, we know that they weren't put on right from the very beginning. When we would come down, we could see the tar paper blowing, and it was, you know, big center holes in it, and we were going ahead and roofing it. Now, it doesn't seem right to me that they're still not being done right. Every time it rains, we have leaks. A lot of times, they're in the very same spot. Sometimes new ones. Why? It doesn't seem right to me that the owners have to be responsible for painting and doing what needs to be done on the inside when the roofs have never been right from the very beginning.
Well, the only comment that I can make there is, unfortunately, the joint venture company, Classic Pacific Homes, that we partnered with to build these things, and their staff supervisors, which didn't include any of my people in the company, we went and looked at some subdivisions. They had 3 different subdivisions going in Riverside County. We went and looked at the quality of work they were doing, etc. It met code up there in California, and so when we JV, joint ventured with these guys, we felt pretty confident that they would build, you know, a comparable product. During this whole recession thing, 2008, those guys filed for a bankruptcy. The court decided they could not get a reorganization done, so they put them into a 7 liquidation, and they liquidated Classic Pacific Homes. And we were left holding the bag. And so we hired the guy that they had here, Rich Nelson, as the head supervisory guy. And, you know, yes, it's very disappointing to us too, not only that we have the roof leaks, but that we had the piping problem. I mean, I can't really say that was Classic Pacific Homes because we found out it's a much broader problem, you know, than just the product that they were using for the plumbing inside the condominium project. But, you know, to the point now where we are, I really want to rely on what Janice is saying and get my architects and get my homeowner association management together to understand that better. And we, you know, I want to know what your experts have said that it's being done wrong so that my guys can, and if we have to call a roofing expert in, we'll do it.
On that same note, if the contractor for here, the neighbor just redone.
Has more leaks than it did. The contractor went up there, there's no layer down, and they installed broken tiles. The roof was only done within the last 6 months. So who on the ranch is installing those roofs? Who on the ranch is fixing those is what my question is. Who's doing that?
It's part of the homeowner association maintenance team. So we need to look into that immediately. Thank you.
Hi, Villas. I've got a couple questions. So the Drake and the Summers group are divided up now. My understanding from last year that there was a penalty. The Summers group backed out $25 million.
No, with the Summers Group, excuse me, is that the rest of the whole question?
Yeah. That's
okay.
The first part, yeah.
Okay, so Summers, when they signed a contract with us, that was a notarized contract, gave us a $25 million promissory note that's in an escrow account, okay, that they never performed on. So, and the issue with calling the note is that basically the company that they set up to do the deal with is a show, I mean, it's a new company, it doesn't have any assets in it. So to try and go through the legal process of calling the promissory note, you know, my attorney guy said, I think it's a waste of time. And so we actually canceled the escrow account.
Okay. Getting back to the pipe situation for the condos, do those people, NIPCO, have any money to pay for all of them?
You know, NIPCO is, thank God, is a very well-off company. They're in Elkhart, Indiana. They've been in business for over 70 years. It's owned by an independent family that is a very wealthy family. I learned this through these mediations are done by retired judges. This judge is a very respectable judge and has great credentials, but he studied the case pretty heavily, and he knows the family, knows of the family that are the owners of the company, and he says they're very private. So my hopes are that this will not even have to get to court. I'm sure that, seriously, if I ask some of my owners, some of you guys that are sitting here, to pay your way and go to court with me to testify in front of a jury as to how much of a problem this has been, not only an inconvenience, heavy inconvenience, but the amount of investment that's been made and the expectation, etc., that the jury is going to clobber these guys. I mean, we will go in with what my guys have worked on very hard to figure out what the cost of repair is going to be, but if he's allowed us to have punitive damages, we'll get the whole thing that's allowed. I know the jury will not, you know.
Okay, so we should have more than enough money to take care of it.
I think so.
Yeah. Now they're going to rip out the walls and put in piping and so forth.
We're going to figure out, I'm going to get some plumbing groups here, and we're not going to do it with local talent. I'm going to get some professionals coming here, and we will have, I've had 2 experts down here. The one lady, Cynthia, I can't remember her last name, but she's got a PhD in physics and stuff, and she knows this piping product. She's been an expert witness in other cases. She was here for 10 days. And my attorneys, I asked the HOA if they wanted to take the case, and they said no, that because we had to pay a retainer fee. And so Doreen and I decided to do it ourselves, to pay the retainer. And then my attorney group, who's out of Philadelphia, good guys, good firm, they have taken the whole case on a contingency. So they're motivated to get it settled, and they want to get it settled with an adequate amount of money to get the whole thing resolved.
Okay, great. Now, will that take care of painting too?
Yeah. The plan that we've outlined for them is we want to, in all this situation, I had a banking group, Resort Funding, that fortunately I've known for 30 years, and they haven't, foreclosed money. But to get mortgage money here for qualified buyers, I had to personally guarantee the mortgages. So in all the this fallout, I had about 20 condo owners who walked away from their condos and left the bank with a mortgage, which means I got left with a mortgage. So I've got about 20 units out there that I've got to settle up as part of this deal to settle up with a bank on, and I'm going to take those 20 units and finish them all up. A lot of them are finished already, but rehab all those so they're in great shape and put furniture in them, and then I'm going to go building by building and work a systematic movement of the people, again with a food allowance, and we will put with the garages clean, because they're all 2- and 3-car garages, we'll move all the furniture carefully, and then we're going to get the repair done, paint it, move everything back in, and then work along with the owner to get them moved back into their condo, and the whole thing will be done correctly.
Very good. One last question. The ones that are just wood out there, are we going to make what is it, insurance that we don't knock them down?
I'm going to bring a construction expert in, not a construction company, but an expert in, and evaluate all of that. And we're going to have to tear. I mean, I know, obviously any sheetrock and all that's going to be torn out, and I'm sure all the plywood has to be torn out. Whether 100% of the structure has to be torn down, I'm not sure, but we'll get an expert opinion on it. And then everything we need to remove, we'll remove, because I'm not going to put them back together and I don't need the headaches, Yes.
Hi, Pat. I live on this side of the ranch, and sort of a pet peeve in the corner of my side about this golf fee come up every year and get charged $469. Well, I don't play golf that much at all, and we have to take that and we have to sell it for a lot less than we have to pay for it. I know that 3 years ago it was supposed to be abolished, and then for one of these annual meetings we had, and then it came back, says no, we still have to have it. Can you do one or two things, just abolish that fee, or just distribute the fee throughout both sides of the street, so that everybody can pay for little, rather than us getting hit, and then we have to take a hit off to sell this thing. If you have more than one property, what we do, you have to sell 2 or 3 of them every year, and we take a hit. So I'd like to see if we can resolve that by maybe distributing fairly throughout the community, or maybe just abolish it altogether.
So it does run now until 2019, because these were 2-year decisions to keep the assessment in. The assessment is $469. Anybody that does golf, it's the greatest cheap golf on a golf course of this type that you'll find in the world. I mean, it's a couple dollars a round. So for the golfers, obviously, the plan is once we get through, 2019, when we get this new investor in here, it's going to go way after 2019. Okay, so we will, because my plan is to put more money in the golf course, get the golf course back to where it was originally, and not burden you guys for that. What we are doing right now with the monies that are collected, and it's far less than what was expected, because we do have people that are delinquent in those fees, but we are crediting back the receivable that we have on the balance sheet with the different associations. It's a credit back, so you guys are getting some benefit that it's coming off your balance sheet. You're not getting direct individual benefit, but the association's getting some benefit because we are giving them a credit on their balance sheet. But it will go away after 2019. So, Maureen's saying if we have the financing, if we don't, it will come back up. But I'm expecting we'll do it with it. Actually, the golfers who have enjoyed all this, when they get back to the point where we were originally and have to pay, $3,000 a year or $3,500 a year per person, or $5,000 for a couple to play golf, and they'll still have to pay their cart fees and everything, then, you know, I'll probably lose a few of them. So, have less golf traffic. But that's what we'll go back to. We'll go back to a normal fee structure for a golf course like this if they'll pay an annual membership, or they'll pay as they play. Either way.
Last year, someone mentioned that the swimming pool were not heated during the winter. I don't know what's the situation now.
So, there's a vote that's going to be put to all of you, to EDR, to the Eldorado Ranch side, about the use of the community pool and how all that's going to work in the future with renters, primarily with renters. If that vote goes through and we keep the renters on this side of the highway, not the owners, just the renters, and have them use a Palapa pool, there's been discussion about how the association, the owners on this side and their association dues are going to pay to have the pool heated during the winter months. So a lot of that rental activity happens in the summer months when the Mexican families are out of school. In the summer months, we don't necessarily need to heat the pool. We got the only heated pools in all of San Felipe. So, oh well, other than some maybe private individual pools. But there are no other pools in San Felipe that are heated. So, but we're actively working on that right now within the supervisory committee. Yes.
Hello, I have a condo in the area where there's just dirt roads, no landscape, and I'm next to all these wooden forms that's been there for, I don't know, 9 years. And so my question to you is, going on 10 years now, why do I have to keep on paying the HOA assessments?
Well, because, you know, that's the way. We still have to pay insurance, we still have to pay security, we still have a budget. And so, you know, this was not an expected thing. I mean, this was something out of our control. The recession was not anywhere in our control. So we did as much as we could do to finish the project up, but 6 months after Classic Pacifics got liquidated, we kept going until we couldn't go any further. And that's when we had to stop, unfortunately. But if owners stop, I mean, I've got the same question from owners here that own homes in here, and they say, why aren't the roads done? Well, I feel, you know, I mean, I'm not happy that the roads aren't done either. Believe me, the day that we put a bow around this thing and have all the roads and landscaping and everything else done, I'll be the happiest guy in town. It's all in the plan to get it there with the new financing. But if owners stop paying fees, all it does is put a bigger burden on the HOA, and then we're going to come to the rest of the HOA paying members. Not only will you have a lien or an assessment on your property for non-paid dues, but then the rest of the owners are going to say, we're going to say, you know something, guys, we need to have a 6% increase this year, because we got 30% of the owners that are not paying their fees. So that's what would happen.
Yeah, I understand where I see it's necessary for the owners to pay the fees when everything is the way it's supposed to be. I'm just one of the few that live in that area. There's not many of us, but it's been, like I say, 10 years now.
I mean, I know, believe me, Doreen and I live with stress about this place. And seriously, the reason we liquidated everything and came back down here is I want people to know that we're going to stand for what we started, and we're going to stand until we can get it finished. So your pain, I have as much pain or more than you guys, and I'm sorry that we put you through this situation, that you had to live in those conditions. And I wish it were different, but it is what it is. And all I can promise you and tell you is that we're here to see the thing through.
There's, I can never pronounce it, Elliptical Road on the west side, Ring Road. Is there a chance of getting one built midway between that and Highway 5, all the way to Saltillo? Do I go through you or just send a request for action letter in and let them start the thinking process? You hear me?
The elliptical road it hasn't been finished, and I don't exactly, I know that when we get financing in place, that we will finish the elliptical road, and the plan is to finish it. So the whole plan of the elliptical road was so people don't have to go to the main highway again if they want to transverse between subdivisions inside El Dorado Ranch. And so that was the whole purpose of the elliptical road. So, but the plan is to finish it. Let him have the mic, please.
I'm sorry. Is there a possibility of getting one between the elliptical road and the highway? Do I go through a request for action letter or other venues like this?
Are you asking to add a new road? Request for action doesn't work for that. The roads have already been approved by the city, which is already on the master plan. So a road just can't be added. You know, we have a lot of people that out in that area, even on this side, that just start driving places and create roads, and we have to go back and dig them all up and make them not a road. So you can't add a road to the master plan.
Okay, well, the BIM representative is here. I'm going to let Jesus introduce him, and I think he has a presentation. Are there any other questions before we go to the Banco Mobiliario? Doreen will be, if you need to see her with issues that we need to follow up on, please see her. She'll be sitting outside for a few minutes. And otherwise, let's do the BIM presentation.
Yes, good afternoon. Well, I would like to introduce, in that meeting, I know we're at the end of the meeting, but Ernesto Fragoso, who is the director of the fiduciary department from Mexico City, he's here. He will start, with a few minutes, a few presentation, what the BIM is doing, and I think it's interesting. Information for you, for everybody in the room. Okay.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you for having me here. I'm sorry for coming improperly dressed, but I come from Mexico City, so it's raining. I'm the fiduciary director of Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano, which is the bank that is holding all the master trusts since a couple of years ago, which we transferred the trust from HSBC Bank to this bank, Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano, which I represent. Well, first of all, for most of you, let me tell you who is Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano. Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano is a Mexican bank. It's one of the, in Mexico, we have around 50 banks authorized by the Mexican government, and we are one of them, is 100% Mexican, and one of the stockholders are probably not known to you, but they are financial recognized people in Mexico. One of them, one of the owners of the bank, is the former Secretary of in Mexico, and he's in our board, and he's one of the owners. Mainly the bank, Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano means bank that is specialized in real estate in Mexico. Okay, here are a couple of slides regarding who are the directors in the bank. I will stop in this, but we will have this presentation to you so you can consult it later. Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, here are numbers of the bank. The bank is specialized mainly in bridge loans. I don't know if it's that good translation of the name, of technical name, and also is specialized in the trust department, which is in the area I am. Okay. As I said at the beginning. Go faster, please. We are holding the 5 master trusts of the whole development, and all the new individual trusts we are making. You are making the trust with us, with our bank. So here are the numbers of the master trust certificates, which probably most of you hold. We are original when the trust was made with Vital back in 2000. There were around almost 3,000 master trust certificates, okay? Which 712 are being replaced to the bank, even though these 2,987 certificates are issued by the original bank trustee, which was Vital. All of the certificates were transferred to our bank, okay? And we are making the replace of your trust certificate, individual certificate, at the name of our new bank, okay? Up to this day, we have been replaced to as a new trust certificate around 712. And only 8 certificate has been issued to a new homeowners or lot owners. Okay, we have this amount of certificates pending to be replaced to our bank, 2,275, which we have a process here directed by the Office of Doral French, Doreen. I think she's involved in all this process. To basically the information, we need some documents from those certificate owners or certificate holders to be replaced for a new certificate at the name of the new bank, which holds the master trust. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. If not, just raise your hand and I can go slower. I can try to explain it better. Okay, go ahead. Okay, with the trust certificates, basically you have 2 options. One of them is to keep the trust certificate with you, which is most of the residents is what they do. The other option is to set up a new individual property trust at your name with a Mexican notary public, and you need to pay taxes and you need to pay rights and fees, etc. But you will have your trust deeds in order. You have basically those 2 options with you right now. The trust certificates owners have a couple of issues, I will say. When this master trust was made, as you might know, we need to the bank and you as a foreigners needs to ask a permit to the foreign office of to the Foreign Affairs Ministry office. We need to ask a permit. This permit was issued back when the master trusts were made at the former bank. And this permit was, they say, yeah, you can make a master trust, but you have two conditions. You can sell the lot or sell the properties with these certificates. However, this certificate, you won't be able to transfer this certificate. You won't be able to sell it, your certificate. You won't be able to donate your certificate. And you also are going to be unable to designate a substitute, beneficiary substitute in case of death. Okay? If you want to do both things, you need to make an individual trust at your name, and then you put a clause there and put your rules of your beneficiaries, etc., etc. Okay, and basically that's what is happening with the trust certificate. Even though that you can keep the certificates for good forever, however, your beneficiaries, your sons, your granddaughters, your family, which needs to take over the property, when you pass away, they must start a legal process in Mexico or in your origin country, okay, in the States or Canada, depends where you're living. So that's going to be, it's kind of expensive, and you need to make you need to do probate in the States or Mexico, and well, basically that's why the Dorado Ranch office and our suggestion is to make your new trust individual. We have another option for those certificate owners. Okay, you may make we can make a setup. We can make a new individual, not property trust, but certificate trust. Okay, with your certificate, we can make an individual trust for you, so you can put rules in that individual trust, and basically you can skip the probate of this process, and you can make a designation of your substitute in this individual trust, not of the property, but of the certificate. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. If not, I'm going to be here around if you can ask me questions. And this trust is a very simple trust. Doesn't involve, you need to pay taxes, transfer taxes of the property, because you are not transferring the property. You are transferring only your certificate. And it's a very low cost setup process, I will say. The other point I would like to talk is that in the Dorado Ranch office is negotiating that transfer of around 700 individual trusts, which still are in HSBC Bank. Okay, remember that HSBC Bank used to have the master trust, and all the individual trusts were set up there. Okay, when we transferred the master trust to our bank, to Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano, or BIM, around 700 individual trusts stayed at HSBC Bank. I don't know if you are one of them, of those 700. So the Dorado Ranch office is making negotiations in order to transfer all these trusts to our bank, to Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano, to BIM, and well, Jesus and Pat are negotiating prices and all the requirements. You already talked about that, sorry. Okay. Well, basically that's what I wanted to present to you. If you have any questions, I don't know if you want me to talk about some topic in specific.
to VIM, I was told by one of your officials that he would put my name on a waiting list and I'd have to wait my turn. Now I'm finding that there are 700, might be 700 people. I don't know where I am in line. I'd like to know how long this is going to take for this reason. It's approximately $400 and change a year. I think you can appreciate that if this goes on to 2 or 3 years, that's an awful lot of money. So I'd like to know where you are in the process of accepting transfers from HSBC to VIM.
Okay, thank you. This negotiation has taken months, at least 8 months, and we put on the table of HSBC to make a massive substitution of the individual trust in one act. Okay, and we were pushing for that idea, which was not accepted at the end. So we need to make one by one, but it's not exactly a waiting list. HSBC Bank is basically trying to sell the. I'm not authorized to say this, but they are trying to sell all this part of the business of the bank. Okay, so they are not pretty much interested in the business. So we are kind of fighting and trying to get this done as soon as possible. The parties that are involved is mainly HSBC and BIM. We are ready to sign this transfer of the we have been I don't know if Jesus told you, but we have communication this week from HSBC Bank. We think we can make, if you are ready, we can make it in a couple of weeks. If you are ready. Okay. Basically, we need documents, some formats you need to sign, and pretty much to update your fees, which hasn't been paid in HSBC. Not you guys, but probably most of you. Then make the payment and pretty much that. Yeah.
The way I understand it is, first of all, my name's Jim, and the way I understand it is the master trust. My wife and I are the master trust. The master trust ends in 2053. Is that correct?
Hey, can you speak up? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My understanding is that the master trust, my wife and I are in the master trust. The master trust ends in 2053. Is that correct? Do I have that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We got the authorization, in 2003. This is for 50 years. Not even that we transferred, or we moved, from HSBC to being the master trust. The permit is the same. It's for 50 years. Yes, that's correct.
So it's 2053.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, if I want to sell my property, which I don't want to, but if on the occasion that I do, that's when I need to get a fideicomiso and pay the fee for the fideicomiso to get out of the master trust and own the property fee simple.
Well, no.
Jim, so you can sell, when you sell what you hold in the master trust, the new owner the master trust can't be transferred. So the new owner has to have and apply for and get an individual trust. You don't have to do anything more. You can sell yourself out of the master trust, but the incoming buyer has to get an individual trust.
Okay, that clears that up. If I choose to get a fideicomiso, I can do that?
Yes.
And then that would be a negotiating tool between me and the buyer?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just the buyer, the new buyer, has to apply and get his own individual trust, correct?
If you're selling the property, you're in the master trust, you don't need to do anything. The buyer, that's what they need to get the individual trust, based on your property you're selling.
The question is, if he goes into the individual trust, does that help him in a negotiation with a buyer coming in to buy his home? Because a new buyer has to apply for his own individual trust. The individual trust doesn't transfer. The new individual has to go to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, get an approval, which is a pretty simple process. It takes time because of the ministry, but your individual trust won't transfer to the new owner. He's got to reapply, get his individual trust, and then, so you're better off to stay in the master trust.
Well, I just want to make a clarification before the next question. You know, what we explained, and was explained by Pat and Lorraine. I mean, when after we got, you know, the final answers from HSBC people, basically, you know, at the moment when if we are going to try, you know, to move or make the substitution of the fiduciary, in this case is we're going to change, you know, the individual fideicomisos, move it to HSBC to BIM. Then we are going to deliver, you know, the whole process, because this is a process. There is an information that we will need. I mean, Banco Inmobiliario Mexicano need from you guys about all the KYCs and knowledge you client, and also, you know, we need to have the right instruction letter in order, you know, to instruct HSBC that your decision is to move to BIM. I mean, all of this documentation is to put it together, you know, in order to start the process. The first step that we mentioned is that you guys need to be current with the fees in HSBC. But we will help you to get the amounts and the statements and everything, and the code in order to make the payments. And if you decide to do that, as he explained, we need to do individually. What we're planning to do that is to concentrate all of this information, every file for everyone, you know, that they decide to make the substitution in Mexicali office, basically what Juan Manuel Perez, what is here, you know, and we will follow up, you know, and put package together, you know, in order to make the substitution that way, and go to Mexico City, get the signatures once the whole package is finished with the notario and everything, and 2 weeks later, you will be the commission with BIM. That's what they basically will be.
There are two things here. One of them is that a lot of the people, obviously from these numbers, have not taken the time to transfer their master trust out of HSBC, which we suggest that they do. I mean, that's not a real expensive process. But we've contacted people 2 or 3 times and asked for them to give us the information required by the bank to get them started on the transfer, and you know, we've only had 700 and some people so far do it. So we'll continue and we'll put another push on to get these people the folks out there that have not transferred into the new master trust. We'll try and push them to get that done. With the transfer of HSBC to BIM with the individual trust, what we're going to try and do is, because HSBC says that they will waive one of their fees, which I think is $322, if we come to them with the transfers and have them, that's their release fee. They'll waive the release fee, and what we're going to try and do is take, you know, groups of maybe 20 people at a time to go there to make it cost efficient for us, to go to Mexico City, to stay there until they sign the paperwork, to get those 20 transferred, get them back over here so we can get them transferred to BIM. And so we're going to try and make this thing as efficient as possible in that manner.
Will you have an office or a bank in Mexicali?
Yeah, we have a branch in Mexicali.
We have a branch.
Yeah, individual trust, that means federal commission, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of process we need to take from transfer from this HSBC to your bank?
Okay. We need to, you have an individual trust in HSBC right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to make a substitution of the trustee, which we are negotiating to make all the process very simple to all of our Doral residents. So basically we need documents from you, we need an instruction letter from you to HSBC. An instruction letter.
Oh, instruction letter.
Yeah, instruction letter saying to HSBC, I need to move to this bank, basically.
So what's going to happen is Doreen is putting a procedure together, and she's working on that right now. She was working on it early this morning. So that everybody will get a set of instructions. Everybody that's an individual bank trust holder, that has an individual fideicomiso, will get a very clear set of instructions from us. We'll say, here's exactly what you need to do. And then we're going to have some customer service people in place in Mexicali, so if there are questions, you have a place to call and get a question answered. But I think it's going to be clear enough that it's just going to be an ABC. If you follow the ABCs, then you'll be able to get it done. And we will draft the instruction letter. All you'll have to do is sign it.
So I'll mail, right?
Yes. This will have to be hard copy because the bank will require your personal original. Yeah.
Okay, I started my fideicomiso process in 2013. Paid all the fees, and it was sent up to Mexicali to Mr. Juan Perez. During that time, HSBC quit writing the trust, so I did never get a fideicomiso through HSBC. Last year, I filled out the paperwork to transfer it basically to BIM and go through the process. The last communication I had with Mr. Perez was in April, and he said it was at the Notario. What is taking so long?
Well, Juan Manuel, I think you have this answer. Why don't, after the meeting, we can just see with you, just check your status, and in this case, the status of the potential procedure, and follow up that, and just to complete the process.
Fees never, and that's about right. That's about when Banco, HSBC stopped doing individual trust. And they wouldn't accept any more applications from us. And so if they never accepted the paperwork and we never started a process for them, you don't have to go, it would seem to me, well, it is, you don't have to go through trying to get released from HSBC because you've never been reported there. So you can just go directly to BIM. So we'll work that out with you, like Jesus, or right after the meeting, let's just get it worked out so we can get that done.
Is it working? Yes. We are in the master trust, and my question is, are we covered with the beneficiary and the probate items like an individual trust for the 50 years?
Yes, actually it's 50 years.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Virginia. Who is the first person we should go to start this procedure?
You're talking about the substitution of the...
I have an individual trust now with the HSBC. Who should I go to? I have never had any emails. I've never gotten any response back from HSBC. I am up to date on my fees. They've never sent me a receipt, which makes me a little worried. So who is the first person I should go to start and get some answers?
I think that what was mentioned by Doreen earlier is that we are finalizing this paperwork. They've taken all the information that HSBC needs for the release. They've taken all the information that BIM needs for the transfer. putting it all together in a set of instructions so everybody that has an individual trust, 700 and some folks that have an individual trust, will receive a package from us to say, here's what you do ABC, and this is how you, so when we start you on that, because calling HSBC, like I say, is, I know it's an impossible thing, because like they have the department's down diminished to 4 people, so there's no customer service element there. Frankly, HSBC's lucky they didn't get sued from all over the country because of all the, I mean, they got thousands of people that are in these situations. I mean, they have a big trust department. And so there are a lot of issues with them, but we will get you a set of instructions so that if you just start following through with that, then you'll be done.
How long should I wait if I don't get a set of instructions?
And if you don't have a set of instructions within 30 days, then please send an email directly to me and Doreen. It's just pbutler@eldoradorange.com. Please.
I was just going to say, at the meeting he said, I think there was one in April, said, do not pay your dues. Do not pay HSBC. And so what you do is you make sure that they have your Fidel Camiso number in Mexicali at the office.
That was because Hector de la Vaca, this guy, told Jesus and the attorney, I mean, Hector was a 25-year plus guy with HSBC running the entire trust department for all of Mexico, told these guys that they were going to waive these fees, and the guy got fired, and he got replaced by a woman who then went to HSBC in London with the same request, and HSBC London denied it. And they said, no, they have to be current in the fees for us to transfer.
But we were told not to pay.
I know that he repeated what I told him. We shouldn't have done that because he didn't have it in writing. He had it verbally from this guy, but he didn't have anything in writing.
And so I have sent an email to Mexicali, to the office, with my Fidel Camiso number on the thing, and I got a response back, yes, and that I am on the list. They have my Fidel Camiso number, and I'll get the packet that they're talking about. It'll have all of the stuff filled out, and all we do is sign it and give them the $2 grand or whatever it is that they're going to demand. That's my thought. That's what I understand.
Isn't it also true that they are not going to charge us any fees for not paying on time?
That's correct. No late fees, no interest.
So we just have to be current in any of our Fidel Camiso payments, and they don't hold anything else against us, and then we can go on and go through the procedure.
Yes.
The one that Doreen is going to be sending out, she'll research all of us and send out to all of us the steps that we need to do. And I believe she was also going to get your actual Fidel Camiso number, the information that you're going to need to have the transfer, take place. So the best thing I can say is wait until we get all that information from Doreen. She'll have that for you.
Exactly.
Will we pay to Mexicali, to the branch of Mexicali, or will we pay to Mexico City in the future?
In this proceeding, you're gonna have by Doreen. I understand there are various options. Most of them are to make transfer in the States. So it's gonna be very easy to pay. Either in Mexico and in the States. Yeah. To the question, in the future you mean, or in the future? Oh, in the future, yeah. You can make either transfer or make the payments in Mexicali or make send checks off. Yeah, wire transfer.
I have a question. So, I live in a condo, and I understand that you can only use the individual trust down there. There's no such thing as a master trust, correct? And so all this procedure would be for all of that. Now, if you have a piece of property out in the other side or on this side, then that is in the master trust. Right, 100%, okay.
Some of it's in the master trust, not all of it.
Oh.
When we went to, what happened when we went to set up, try and get all these, get trust, these fideicomisos done, when we went from a leased land to titled land, we had so many people that the notaries could never process it or anything. So we were granted by the government of Mexico a master trust, the ability to have a master trust. So that's where we've got 6,000 and some registered lots in the master trust. Some of those lots on the mountainside are not in the master trust. So if they're not in the master trust, they have to have individual fideicomisos also. So on this side, do we have anything in the, and then in this side, we've got 4 small sections that are in the master trust, but most of all of this in La Ventana is in the individual trust, will be individual trust.
So I have a piece of the property on the other side, which I would assume is in the master trust.
Yeah, the thing you just need to do is just double check with sales department and just make sure it's in the master.
They just had me sign a form, which I checked on. Sign the form, so there's no fees involved with becoming I could go to the individual trust there also.
But then you could if you want to, but there's no real reason to do it.
Right, exactly.
Okay. You have the added expense.
Two questions. Said payment has to be current. That means this year we have to pay.
If you, let's say you haven't paid for 5 years.
No, wait.
No, but I mean, if some people haven't paid for 5 years, they have to get current if they want to transfer.
Yeah, but this year we try to pay. There's
No, I understand, but what we're going to do is we're getting all that information right now, so you should have received by email from HSBC saying to you that here's the amount you owe for 2018, and like Denise just got hers and she just paid it, and it was all done by email, and they give her a code number to pay her, make her payment this year for her individual fideicomiso fee payment, and she did that. So all the individuals should have received. Did you get a receipt, Denise?
No.
No.
I bank online.
Typically, your email that comes requesting your payment comes the month that it's due. So whenever you got your original fideicomiso, that's the month. Ours was done in October. So every year in October they send the email. So if yours was done in December, you probably won't get an email until December.
We haven't got our email yet. So
Well, we explained before, part of the resolve the whole issue is to, and we already did, we're in the process, and we asked, to HSBC send us all the statements from everyone. That way we can deliver it to you, and then you can program the payment. That's basically what we're doing.
So Jesus, when we send these individual packages out, you're going to have to match up the letter. It's going to be personalized. You're going to have to say your individual fideicomiso number with HSBC is this, the amount they show that it's due and outstanding is this, and here's what you need to do, and the rest of the package will need it.
Any other question?
You mentioned some sort of fee to transfer our property from current fideicomiso to a new one, a master trust or whatever. How much is this fee?
We've just got that fee structure, but by the time you get the current with the new, let's say you're current with your dues, at that point to do the transfer, including the notary cost, it's about $2,000.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for, just a ballpark figure. Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you for attending and have a good weekend. Enjoy the Shrimp Festival. Thank you.